All right. Excellent. I think we got the streams live. We got everybody checking into the show today.
Yes.
While we're checking in, everybody, check in. How's the sound? How's the video? Do we have the audio and video lined up well? So check in. Give us a quick update while we're getting everything started here, everyone.
So I do want to shout out to Steven. He's joining us from Seattle, Washington. I will wait to post his comment location because there is a good question that he included.
It's a great question.
So we'll include that later in the show, but stay tuned.
Excellent. I'm looking at the camera. We're going to do a quick adjustment here. Well, fantastic. Excellent. Well, we are at the top of the hour. We've got people checking in on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate all of our audience coming in today. We love you guys, and we really enjoy making the show. And
we do.
It's a good time for us.
It is.
Thank you guys for making it possible for us. So why don't we go ahead and kick off the show for everybody since we are at the top of the hour. Well, everybody, we have a really exciting show for you today. As most of you have hopefully noticed by this time, we haven't told you who our guest is on the show because, well, we thought we'd amp up the suspense a little bit and about who we convinced to cross the line from the owner's side to open up and tell us what owners look for when they evaluate new projects. When they evaluate new technology and evaluate new projects. So, everybody out there, warm up the chat lines. Do like Steven did. Tell us what you want to know. If you could have an owner's project manager reveal all. So, but before we do that, and while y'all are doing your comments, Maria, do you have some interesting news stories to share with us this week? I want to hear about these. You get some good ones.
So one that sort of is on brand for our show or our, bi-weekly live streams is that Reddit is going to launch a test stream for 5 days straight.
What are they going to stream for 5 days?
Well, users get to choose. So there are going to be guidelines, but it's going to be called Reddit Public Access Network. So it's a test live streaming thread that can prove to be on the same level that they hope for Twitch and YouTube. So video game streams, any type of stream.
All right. Well, then tells us we're gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, we might have to. We should have done it today. We should have gone on the thread. But users can stream. The new subreddit is going to be r/pan. So rpan, with some of the top streams being displayed on the homepage for the remainder of the 5 days. It started yesterday and will go through the 23rd. So if you want to go, live stream on Reddit, now's your chance. It'll still have the regular upvote system, which is how they'll be displayed on the homepage, the top views. They are setting ground rules, though. So no graphic content, no dangerous or illegal behavior, and, none of that is allowed. They're trying to firm down on that pretty hard. But they'll be streaming between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So it's not a 24-hour thing, but it's 9 to 5. That way Reddit back end will be able to monitor it. They'll have people monitoring it for that time. So now through August 23rd.
Oh, very
the rpan
cool.
thread.
All right. Well, we'll check that out. I'm going to go check that out. That sounds very exciting. What do you guys out there think? We got a lot of streamers, people who do live streaming. What do you think about this new Reddit opportunity?
Yeah.
Is it going to work? Is it not going to work?
Yeah, because Twitch, I know, is mainly video games. So I'm interested to see what kind of stream people will do on Reddit. If it will be primarily video games or, what type of streams they'll have.
I'll be interested to see. With these live streams, you never know. I mean, it may turn out.
That's true.
Like,
could be someone baking a cake.
Well, and the most popular ones I've seen are with my daughter. People who just open toy sets, open up and set up toy sets. And my wife calls it crack for kids because it just hits the anticipation centers of her little brain again and again and again. Because every 2 minutes. Do you sit there
as they build it too?
Oh, yeah. They're like, look at this new box. And they open it up. So what's Reddit going to be, guys? I want to hear your theories. What are people going to be interested in on Reddit? So that'll be interesting.
And there was one more that got my attention. It was about robotic shorts. So researchers, robotic shorts. Oh, yeah. Researchers at Harvard are developing, or I think they have already developed a prototype for a powered exosuit that's supposed to make you feel up to 12 pounds lighter when you're walking or running. So sign me up. I could use that. I could use it day to day. But it's supposed to be built on flexible shorts that has a motor on your lower back, which will then connect to some cables on your thigh. So it may be uncomfortable. I'm not quite sure. But it's supposed to be targeted towards recreational hikers, military personnel, rescue workers, and anyone else who's on their feet for a long period of time for large distances.
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'll try them out. Hey.
Yeah, anyone wants to feel like they lost 12 pounds.
When are they going to let me jump over a building, though? That's what I
didn't see a launch date for it, but I have I'll put the 2 article links that I read about it, one for the Reddit and one for the shorts, in the comments so y'all can read up on it yourselves. But yeah, I didn't see a price or a release date for it.
Okay. Hopefully they get it out soon. I want to be able to jump over buildings, do superpower stuff. All right, guys. So get your comments out there. Get them on, because we are going to get the show started. Yes. So let's go ahead and kick it off. All right. So if you're joining us for the very first time, I'm Tyler Andrews, the head nerd and all-around PoE junkie here at PoE Texas. And as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Maria Medell.
Hello, everyone. So thank you for joining us again today. We did give a little warm-up intro with some tech news, but we are excited to have you here for the show today. So our guest this week has been managing projects for owners domestically and internationally for almost 20 years. He started with ExxonMobil's upstream mega project division, doing oil and gas plants in Korea, Russia, and Canada. Then he helped grow a startup company called iFly, and of you indoor skydiving fans. So he called iFly from partially owning one adventure sport wind tunnel to owning and operating 58 units in a 5-year time span. After the second round of investment bought his shares in the startup, our guest today bought a company in the power over Ethernet space. However, he still does moonlight in project management, helping owners build industrial plants. So without further ado, let's go ahead and reveal who our guest is today.
All right. Oh, it went to the video. Let's get us back on track. All right. So I can't tell you my name, but they can see me, can't they?
I think they can.
Oh, I've been caught. Wait a second. This cheap blur thing they told me on YouTube said it would work. It didn't work. All right. Spoiler alert, everybody out there. It's me, Tyler Andrews.
Yeah.
I've been sitting here through all of these shows for the last 6 to 8 months, asking questions from all the real PoE experts. And in reality, I've been two-timing on the owner side the whole time. I'm actually, for those of you who don't know, I have done all those things, acting as the owner's project manager for many years. And it's actually something that I think I do pretty well at now. You know, after about 20 years between ExxonMobil and iFly, a lot of experience. So I'm excited to talk to you guys. And the cool part is I'll be honest, and I'm going to put on my project manager's hat. You may notice I speak a little bit differently when I do that, but I want to know what you guys would like to know from the project manager side.
Yeah, we can go ahead and start with the first audience question.
Yeah, bring it up. I'm ready for it. I'd love to see that.
All right, so this is again from Steven, who commented when we first started going live today from Seattle, Washington. Thanks for watching, Steven. Steven is interested in knowing perspective of the tension between IT groups and building management folks over who controls the PoE cables for buildings.
Ooh, that's a good question. So if I'm hearing you right, Steven, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're asking about whether it's the IT group or it's the building management team who owns the cables in a building and who's responsible for them. And I think your point is very germane. The definition between who actually owns them is not very clear. And it really depends on the organization. The best organizations I've seen end up having an IT person dedicated to a facility. So let's say a plant or a building. They're on a matrix type organization. They're assigned to be the IT person associated with that. And then typically the cables fall under them. But I'm definitely interested, Stephen, in what you're seeing in your space. Are people doing that? And that's a tough question. Who physically owns the hardware? Usually the IT and the software is pretty easy. Where I can speak most conclusively, though, for you, Stephen, is that in the space of who owns the cables between the project manager installing the building and the facility and the IT group, 99% of the time it defaults to the IT group. So even if you don't own the cables at the end, at a certain point, you may do a handoff to an owner's facility manager. The actual cable installation themselves
Would be
most of those are being driven, organized, planned, and executed by the IT department. So, in that respect, IT departments need to have people who are familiar with the hardware and installation side of the equipment.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, what does Stephen say? I think Stephen came back a little bit more. Oh, he did. Okay.
Not yet.
So, Stephen, did I answer your question? I really want to know where you're seeing that coming from.
Oh, that was me. Just asking
right.
the audience to see what they want to know.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
So, what got you specifically interested in Power? What made you want to make that change?
Well, I was looking at it from both the business case and the technology case. So, I'm an engineer by training, and I'm a project manager by experience. So, as I was looking at concluding my iFly experience, which was a fantastic experience, very exciting and unique, traveling all over the world, I was looking for something that would take advantage of both the technology and the project management experience. And there was this opportunity with a company here in Austin that was doing PoE. So I started researching it, and what I was really excited with is the real growth potential for Power over Ethernet, in the sense that as a technology and as a platform, it's one of those types of technologies that's just drastically underused and underutilized. So I was very excited with the opportunity to see where this space could go. So that's how I got involved with PoE Texas, and frankly, it has not disappointed.
That's good.
As I've gotten more and more involved in it, the potentials and the opportunities have just grown. And that's, in fact, why we started this Converge PoE show, because there are so many cool and amazing things going on, and so many interesting people doing things with Power over Ethernet. I knew I had to get involved.
That's true. It seems like maybe every week or so, definitely at least every month, there's a different type of installer project that gets brought our way that we may not have thought. Well, at least myself. I might not have thought to do or could be done.
Like you get those Netgear Nighthawks. Those are interesting because they're USB-C. So we get some very interesting types of products. What project would you be interested to find out if we've heard about? Hit those chat lines. Tell us this is something I'm interested in finding out about, because I think that could be very cool.
Or if there's something personal you want to know, Tyler, send that too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm debating whether to share some of the stories.
I think definitely at least one.
You want one story?
Let's do one story.
All right. For those of you who haven't been, why don't I do Dubai? I'll do Dubai. For those of you who haven't been to Dubai, Dubai is a very interesting place. And part of my role as a project manager would be is I would go into places and tell them if they were ready to start doing the handover of this complicated wind tunnel. Wind tunnels have like 400 horsepower motors, large variable frequency drives, a control system, some of the tallest glass structures that you'll ever build. And so I was over in Dubai, and I was walking this facility, and the owners. I walked around the facility. My little report went up to the owners, and the owners said, "Okay, great, this is great. When's the facility going to be ready to start up?" And I said, 6 to 8 weeks. And they go,
"That's a fair time."
Yeah, okay. So they came back, and I went to the hotel. They said, "Can you come back in the morning?" So I came back the next morning, and I walked up to the project manager. I was like, "Okay, let's put a plan together for how we're going to go from here until getting ready to start it. And the owner's rep looked at me and said, "What's it going to take to get this done in 2 weeks?"
Wow.
And I said, "It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks, really." And he said,
4 more weeks.
No. You don't understand. The Sheikh of Dubai wants some good news. He wants some good news for everybody, some good press, and he's told us we need to have this done by this date, which is 2.5 weeks out. And I smiled and I looked at him. I said, "It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks."
Firm on that date.
And he just looked at me and he shook his head. "You don't understand. It's going to be done in 2 weeks."
They said it had to be done.
It had to be done. So I listed out this extreme case of I needed him to fly out 6 people. I needed to have electricians and technicians on staff for me to tell them what to do day by day, hour by hour. And it was crazy. I burned a lot of bridges with that one.
Really?
People were exhausted. It's interesting as a project manager in those types of situations to see people working at the physical edge. Meaning these people had been working 12 hours a day,
Oh, wow.
7 days a week. People were exhausted and tired, but we pulled it off.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. It was really funny. The facility was basically curtained off. There's this tunnel, and I'm watching these guys lay these 2 foot by 2 foot, 1 inch thick marble tiles in wet thin set the afternoon before the press event, which means all that tile is going to have to get torn out and thrown away. They're laying it in and hanging these big curtains, show curtains, up. And we used duct tape and baling wire to get those wind tunnels and the project done. And boom, he watched the first flight. He came in, he signed a thing, took a couple of flashes, turned around and walked out.
I didn't even know they had the wind tunnels like that in Dubai.
Oh, they've got a ton of them. The place is swimming in them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I haven't even done the ones here.
In the UAE alone, I think they've got 5 or 6.
And is the iFly ones?
Yeah, most of them are
wow.
iFly ones.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, maybe a little thing you didn't know. Just Google on YouTube or Google Skydive Dubai, and you get to see some of them, and they're very cool.
I still have never skydived in the U.S., so maybe my first time will get to be in
Neither
Dubai.
have I, actually. I have never jumped out of a building. My wife kept telling me I haven't made enough money to die yet. Because a little business tip: no life insurance policy will cover you for jumping out of an airplane.
Really, for skydiving?
Yeah, skydiving voids your insurance policies.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
I don't know a single life insurance policy that would carry you for jumping off an airplane.
That makes sense. It's voluntary. So let's see. What advice would you have to anyone who wants to get into whether it be the PoE industry itself or to, acquire a company, start their own?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I would share with you guys out there, if a lot of you guys are already business owners, I would like your feedback on this as well. I actually tried to start a business with my wife from zero. We were zero. We came up with a concept. We came up with a product, and we started working on it. And that business went under.
Oh, yeah. Really?
What ended up? We were doing an identity theft business. We were trying to help people rescue themselves from identity theft. Unfortunately, the FTC, who writes the laws on it, made almost exactly the same product. Not as good. I'll say, just my personal opinion.
Yes.
But it's hard to compete when the guys who write the laws about identity thefts write a tool to help
prevent
recover.
Identity.
It's for recovering from identity theft. It's hard to say, don't go with the guys who write the laws, go with mine. So the business didn't get off the ground. But what we ended up doing is that was a great experience. But what I ended up doing was buying a business and buying an operating business at a smaller stage, and I think that was a good investment because I could come in where the business had cash flow, but there was also enough opportunity and scope, obviously, with the business where we could grow and take a different direction.
So would you say that's for someone who's never owned a business before or wanted to venture out to try to look for one that's kind of, would you recommend they look into buying one first instead of starting one from the ground up?
I would. I'd suggest looking at it. The hard part is you need more cash. You're going to need more capital to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what the reality is that with the right business, you may not feel it up front with your startup, but to get a real startup business to where it needs to be, you're going to need roughly the same amount of cash.
Okay, that's good advice.
Yeah.
We do have a comment about our audio today from one of our loyal viewers, Tom. He said our
Hey,
audio
Tommy.
is much better today. So I guess the new setup is working.
Hey, Tom, what do you think of the exposure today on the camera? I've been working on the exposure and the lighting, so thank you for joining us, my friend.
Yes. He's in Alabama, correct?
Yes.
Think? Alabama.
He's in Alabama.
Let's see. So what proved to you to be maybe the most challenging part about taking over a business or running a business? And then maybe what was most exciting?
Ooh. Well, I'll start with the most exciting.
Good news first.
I really loved the ability to give direction. I knew, right off going into it that that's what I wanted to do with the business, be able to give it direction, help build a strategy and approach. And I find that very exciting and very interesting. Now, while that's important, then switching to your other question about what the biggest challenge is for somebody, I would suggest that if you're going to do your own business, expect to do sales and marketing. I'm not saying you have to do all the work yourself, but every business owner has to have a deep and abiding grasp on sales and marketing. And that has been the biggest learning curve for me because I had, with my project management background, operations, staffing, strategic planning, contracting, those types of things, all old hat for me. But I've had to really work hard and invest a lot in sales and marketing, trying to get those principles instilled in myself and instilled in the strategic planning. So if you're thinking about a business, invest in some sales and marketing training, education.
Good to know.
Yeah.
What would you say are some common misconceptions about the power over Ethernet industry?
Ooh. I think the biggest misconception that I'm hoping we can change with shows like this is that power over Ethernet is technical, like too technical for me, and it is something reserved for the highly technical IT person.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
I think that's really fair.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? What's cool is that I'm, Maria's come on the team, and I'm sure, and you talk to a lot of people. They feel like it's too complicated, or
they do. Yeah. Sometimes they'll call in or they'll write in, and they'll openly admit to not being familiar with the technology or the standards at all. And then once we explain it to them, it's kind of like, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward, and yeah, there aren't standards and power requirements that you have to follow, but there aren't. It's not hundreds. It's it's a small set of standards or rules, and once you have that down, it's it's like piece of cake, piece of pie.
Yeah. So I think that's very cool. So that would be my perspective. I think there's a misconception out there that you can't do PoE unless you're in IT, and you can. You guys should totally get out there and do PoE, take on PoE projects because they're worthwhile doing. And
Absolutely.
I'm totally biased on that recommendations.
I guess I would be too technically. What do you do? And we talked a lot about, project management, your history. So what do you like to do to take your mind off of the work? And, just kind of what does Tyler Andrews like to do to escape from all of that?
3 things. First, I'm a family man. I'm an inveterate family man. I love my wife and I love my little daughter. The two of them are they're like, when I leave work, that's what I leave work for. So, and if you're curious, you can actually see my daughter's cameo in our video about our AV mounts or tablet mounts. I convinced my daughter to slap me in the face on film.
We were all kind of concerned with what was going on in the office. There wasn't a lot of introduction. And we just hear a little bit of yelling and then slaps. But
nice little slap in the face.
It was all for good fun.
So it's my wife, my daughter. And then I'm a big foodie. I love to eat. So I will, when I leave work, I eat. And part of that is I took up a hobby. And it's a little bit of an odd hobby. Everybody in Austin's a little weird. I make cheese. And
Regularly. I knew it was at least a one-time thing.
yeah, no. I made cheese this weekend, and it is an analog to project management. I tell people it's an analog to project management because with the good project management, you have to invest a lot of time and energy right at the beginning to get all the pieces working and all the ingredients right, and then with the cheese that you age, you have to put it in a fridge and let it sit there for 6 months and do its own thing. And
It's a long
you
time to
check
wait
in
for
regularly,
cheese.
and you help you touch it, but you can't change anything. And then it's not going to be until you get to that 6 months. You take your cheese out, you cut it open, you decide whether it's even worth eating. And there's been a lot of cheeses that I've just cut open, taken the first bite, and thrown it away.
Which one has been your favorite cheese to make so far?
I did an interesting one. I did a Colby.
Okay.
So I took a Colby,
Classic cheese.
classic, little yellow with little little holes in it, and I bandaged it. So I took cheesecloth and brisket tallow. So what it is, I smoke a brisket, cut all the fat off, render it down until it becomes that nice white, smooth tallow, and I bandaged it around the Colby, and then I let that age, because like a traditional cave aged cheese is bandaged with butter, so I bandaged it with brisket tallow.
That sounds like a good cheese.
It was an interesting cheese. I enjoyed it. It was very good.
Your third? Because it was family, cheese.
No, family, food, and cheese.
Family, food, and cheese.
Family, food, and cheese.
I miscounted. We do have a comment from Tom. It's not a question, but it is in the. He just wants to, give some feedback. So he said that PoE has not reached its potential yet, which is what you touched base on as well. And that there is so much that can be done, even things we don't even realize yet.
Yes.
Oh, he also wants to know, how often do you flip your cheese?
Good question. You flip your cheese every 2 or 3 days. So
just keep rotating side to side. Oh.
But the trick with cheese, sorry, I'm going way off PoE at this point. The trick with cheese is you have to keep it at a very precise temperature and humidity, and that's hard. It's actually harder than you think, because as you cool down the temperature, the water has the tendency to decrease. The humidity decreases because you're lowering the dew point, so you have to push more water in. So just a little bit of tip.
There you go, Tom, in case you want to make your own cheese one day.
And if you're a cheese junkie, I'm going to be working on building my own little cheese cave to have in the house. And I'm trying to do it for less than $100. So if I can pull it off.
Cheese cave. That's my goal. So to bring it back a little bit to PoE and the theme of the show today, with, as a project manager, when you're scoping out all these different projects, excuse me, whether it be the wind tunnels or whatnot, how would you say, in regards to PoE, how easy it is to incorporate that into the plans for that project?
All right, you've opened.
Or when do you know to suggest it?
You've opened a big can of worms, Maria. Thank you for introducing it.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
That's the big can of worms. So, a lot of people are curious about this. And by the way, as I'm talking, guys, everybody out there, shoot your comments. Tell me if you think I'm right. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Give us your experience, because you're getting one perspective. Your perspective is really important and valuable, and I learned from it, as you're going to hear in the conversation. But I do want to talk to you about timing and how to get. What I would want to know is, how do I get new technology like Power over Ethernet into a project? Because as Tom, you had said, we're trying to expand the potential. The trick is first and foremost, owners want to be simple, and it's about timing. And once the owner gets an investor or a bank on board, because as contractors, we look at owners and we're like, oh, they're the big boss, they get to call the shots. Really, they have to obey. Owners have to do what their bank or investor, whoever's got the cash, wants them to do. So there's a lot of requirements and things put on them. And the trick is the key for the projects is, once a bank or an investor is on board, time is of the essence. Cash flow is crucial to owners, and that's no surprise, because they're forking over all money to do the project. But what happens is, when a bank or group of investors actually fund the project, your project as a project manager, they set a clock. They basically turn on a time clock around how long it takes to start seeing their money coming back in. I was just talking with a colleague yesterday, and he's talking in the order of $2 to $3 million is that time clock. You could go
Wow.
from $2 to $3 million, whether that time clock is set for 12 months or 18 months. And that's pretty significant. I mean, businesses sit up and take notice when there's $1 million on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So owner project managers have to walk a fine line where they have to keep the project overall in the budget, and that's why project managers are all cost conscious, which is good for us when the PoE, and I'll explain why. But they also have to keep it in a schedule. And so that's why I'm telling you all this, because timing for an owner decides who's an owner who's trying to decide to do power over Ethernet, lights, or any other non-standard technology has to come before the owner gets his funding. Even if you show up with the best idea in the world after a project is funded, unless you can convince practically everyone from the lowest subcontractor all the way up to the investors, this will save money and time, it's most likely not going to happen.
So they go pretty much hand in hand, the cost with the time.
Yes, cost and time becomes crucial, and you can't as a somebody who's proposing this new technology to an owner, bringing it to them at the wrong time is as bad as not presenting it to them. And I'll give a great example. I actually went up to the Sinclair Marriott 2 weeks ago, and I took this great new product that I thought that they would like. And Hannah and Nathan, who were on the show last week, fantastic people, were very polite, very gracious to say thank you very much for bringing this. They looked at it, they gave me great feedback, they were engaged, but they had to say, unfortunately, it's not going to happen for this project now. We're going to have to consider it for future projects, and that's because they just have to get that hotel done.
Right.
They got to get that hotel done. They've got to get the revenue coming in because they've got investors and they've got people, and there's a lot of money rolling forward now to finish the project. And so at that point, even the best idea would never fly.
Have made it through.
Yep. So the real question comes in as to when. So I'll actually bring something up here for you guys. Let's do this. We're going to stinger, and I'm going to bring this up. Okay, when? When is the right time? And the key is getting the owners or the owner's project manager, somebody who would sit in my role, their ear as early on during the conceptual or schematic design phase of a project. And what I'm going to do is I'll bring up here the table so you can see what that looks like here. So if you're looking at the screen, what you can see is there's this green line that kind of makes a little hill, and on the left, you got the concept design, then there's the planning, the execution, and the transfer phase. So the concepting phases, owners are out looking for real estate. They've got an idea. They want to do a project. They know they need to get something done, and they're considering it. But they really haven't hired an architect, or maybe they have an architect or a contractor on board doing pre-construction. And what you can see is that the green line, it roughly represents the effort and a rough correlation of the number of people working on that project. And so remember I said, it's a lot easier to sell an idea to 1 or 2 people than it is to sell it to
everybody in
15 or 20. So you can see as that curve goes up, I'll go this way, as that curve goes up, that's more people you have to sell to. That's more people you have to get in front of and win over to your concept. So the best time is to hit that project as early as you can to get your concept or new technology in the owner's plans. And if a project is halfway through the planning phase, you can see that planning phase, that's when they have issued drawings for construction. The odds of you getting a change, of course, at that point are very low, because owners will have made 90% of their decisions by that point, or at least good owners, and are starting to gear up. What ends up happening is the owner, rather than making changes, starts to change gears to manage the change order battle. And what that looks like for owners is they have to be ready to handle, mistakes or things that were missing in the architectural drawings. And so at that point, their minds are starting to turn toward, I've got to hit the schedule and I've got to do it within that budget. And then by the time execution comes along, owners are in full cost and schedule management mode, because they've got contractors have already divided up the budget and now are looking for ways to squeeze out a little bit more cash here or there, be able to increase the revenue just a little, especially if it was competitively bid. So, yeah, the owners are distracted, contractors are distracted. Nobody wants to give up their little share of the budget to somebody new. So it's not going to work. But I've got a solution for you.
Always a but.
I'm not leaving you out there alone to say, well, how on earth do I get in front of an owner so early? And Stephen had pointed this out a little earlier. There's a dirty little secret. Owners don't really make public knowledge. I'm probably going to lose my license. No, there's really there's a license for what I do right now, but only a few people even know it happens. The owners, most owners, based on the bank's requirements, are required, or even their own best practices, and I would tell owners to do it as well, bid out their construction projects to at least 3 or 5 general contractors after qualifying them very carefully. And frankly, you have to know somebody just to get on that list to get qualified. However, there are 2 suppliers or contractors who are brought in very early on in a project and are almost never competitively bid. And they're a little bit surprising. People don't realize this. And tell me if you've got good comments here that we need to pause for, but I'm kind of going off on my shtick. Number 1, your first one is the lighting supplier. And I'll kind of give this explanation. What happens is that when you hire an architect, say, I want to do this building and I want to put these lights in it, one of the first people they call is their lighting rep. And the lighting rep helps the architect select the fixtures for the project. And boy, the teleprompter with my notes is just flying by. And what happens is the lighting rep does a lot of services for the architect.
Mm-hmm.
He helps create lighting levels, do calculations, select fixtures, make sure they're specified. And he does this all as part of his package so that his selection of lighting fixtures ends up on the drawings. Then when the drawings go out to bid, all the contractors go to that same lighting rep to get bids for the lights that match the bid schedule.
Oh.
So you'll see this. It's a H.E. Williams fixture, XYZ, number 1, 2, 3 with this light fixture and this, and this. It's all built on this fixture schedule. Now all the contractors have to bid that. Well, if you're in Texas or in Austin, there's 1 or 2 lighting reps that carry those types of products. And what the general contractor will do is he will give that package to his electrician. The electrician knows the lighting reps in the area, calls the lighting rep, says, give me the bid package for this. And most lighting reps are very intelligent in the sense that they keep it competitive, they keep it confidential. They're not going to hurt anybody by misbidding other people, but they do cost, and they give their best pricing as they can because they know they got to win it. Now, if the general contractor doesn't like the price, or somebody wants to try and improve the price, the contractor has to try and figure out how to pick out and get alternate lights approved by the architect and the owner, convincing them that they have an exact match.
So the contractor would make that decision.
Well, if the contractor wanted to make that decision, he has the responsibility to find light fixtures, make sure they match, present them to the owner and the architect, convince the owner or the architect that this alternate light fixture will save them money and do exactly what they want. The reality is I have seen very few contractors change a lighting package.
Oh, really?
Very few. It is extremely rare because there's very little incentive for the contractor to change the lighting package because the owner wants this light, the architects want that light, and so the lighting fixtures themselves are important. And I'll get to so are usually never changed in the bid process. I'll get to how that will work for you in a little bit. Now I'm going to reveal to you the second contractor.
Second secret.
This is the second secret contractor that rarely gets bid out on a project. I have never seen these guys get competitively bid, even though as a project manager, I have done my utmost best to get it bid. And that's your Division 27 or Division 28 contractors who do communication, site security, lighting. Your IT contractor, basically. As the owner, it doesn't matter how much I yell, I kick and scream saying we need to competitively bid this. Every owner I have ever worked with has had their IT team pick a low voltage contractor very early on. And then they stick with that contractor practically forever. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a friend of mine who owns an IT company. His name's Robert Enner. Great guy, does great work. He's based here in Texas. He does his work in Texas. I called him one time. He was in North Carolina doing the IT installation at a campground.
Oh, wow.
Because the campground wanted, the campground company wanted him. So I can't tell you how many times I've been overruled when I try to competitively bid the low voltage scope on a project, but it almost never happens because it relies on the owner's IT team to pick that contractor, and they'll pick the contractor that they know will do what they want, and then they just, as often as not, they'll just talk right over the PM's head, right to the operations team, the owner of the building, or the project executives. So bring this all back together. If you want to get a new technology or a new product placed on a project, then you need to partner up or replace one of these two guys.
Replace.
By replace, I mean you need to replace. You need to function like one of those two guys.
Makes sense.
You need to be talking to the architect, or to the architect as the lighting firm, or to the owner as an IT firm providing that service. Now you can partner with somebody, or you can do it. Say, I'm not competing with this guy for this work, but I'm going to be doing this. But that is really, really an important element. So that's the when. Okay. Any questions for me out there, guys? Let me know.
Doesn't look like yet. They're soaking all the information.
All right. So the next is the why. Okay. So now that you've found your way in, you've had that initial conversation with either the architect or the owner's IT department. You have to sell your compelling message. And your Power over Ethernet suppliers have invested a lot of money in this particular pitch. So if you can get your foot in the door with one or both of those two contractors I mentioned, now is the time to bring in your PoE lighting sales rep or your system sales rep, because they can bring in their pitch something like this. They'll bring in this cost analysis that shows why Power over Ethernet lighting or this new system is cost effective. I'm showing one here from Igor, and then there's this other one that looks really good from that I got from Bixie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think this came from New LED. Really good guys out of California. So they will be able to provide this for you, and any good firm will have their salesperson ready for this moment. So you don't have to win this altogether. what you do is you make that introduction, you pull your contact from whoever's the supplier for that, they will come in with this presentation and can really win it over.
Have you found that your history with project management, although it was a different industry, helped you in taking over, yes, the PoE world?
I think so. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is stuff that is becoming part of our strategy at PoE
Oh,
Texas.
for sure.
So yeah, it gives you a different perspective and allows you to get a different sense of why and where.
Aside from just being a tech company owner.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
There's that, and then there's also the experience of bringing on and building a new team. Because what's cool about project management is every year or two, you basically build a team. You start from zero, you hire contractors, you hire people, you build a team, you staff it up, you get it running, you got to get it running optimally, and then you have to shut it down after a year or two. And so getting good at that, you get a lot of experience bringing on, getting strategic alignment, setting in processes and procedures and how things all work, executing well, and then winding it down and making sure you get good customer satisfaction.
Which is the same with what we deal with every day.
Yeah, well, kind of see that you're seeing it now, aren't you? All of a sudden, you're
I
like,
see the light.
You're like,
PoE light.
Oh, that's why he does it that way.
Full circle.
All right, so now we need to talk about where you go from here, Moon, because what's going to happen is the key is where. And this is one that I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about. The big problem with once you made this case and the owner team starts to come around to the idea that they can save the 15 or 30% on PoE, PoE lighting, we've generally seen it's about a 30% savings doing PoE. Now you have to get the project manager and architect to secure the method for how you're going to help them capture that savings. This is really important. If I can underline one thing, it's technical, it's not exciting, there's not a lot of meetings, and while there's a couple meetings involved in this, but if you miss this, what happens is electrical designers and contractors will come out full force to convince the owner that he couldn't make a worse decision by going with PoE. And this is really important. So, and it all comes down to where in the drawing set the lighting or infrastructure appears. And what's important is that you have to explain to the architect and the project manager that to take the best advantage of PoE lighting and PoE infrastructure is to make sure that the whole scope appears on the Division 27 drawings. So I'll pause here, either Division 27 or Division 28 drawings. And I'll pause here because I'll share with you what that looks like. And I'm going to try and move some stuff around. So if I'm staring off the screen, I'm trying to move this around. For those of you who may not be as familiar with this, the divisions are how architects divide up their specifications. And so if you open a spec book, you're going to see divisions, typically somewhere around 50 of them. You can get real detail. I mean, I know there's like some 180 ones, but typically there's about 30 to 40 divisions in a spec book, and they're pretty well standardized. Most everybody picks the same divisions. And what it is that's how they divide up their drawings. And if you look at this drawing set, I've got this one here. Let me make sure I've got my positioning tool here. You can see the architectural drawing sets. And they break up those divisions, and then you've got your structural drawings. They've got structural and glazing drawings, and those all fall in their own division categories. And they've got mechanical, electrical, and plumbing divisions, and those all have their individual divisions. And Division 26 is the electrical drawings.
Oh, okay.
Now, here's what will happen. If you put the lights or the PoE infrastructure in the Division 26 drawings and in the section 26 of the spec book, the general contractor, what he does is he gets this big pile of drawings and he peels it out by division and he hands it to subcontractors. So there's a subcontractor that handles painting, and that's its own division.
Mm-hmm.
There's a subcontractor who handles sheetrock on the walls. He gets his little division. The general contractor will peel off Division 26 and hand it to his licensed electrician. Typically, Division 27 is rarely bid, like I mentioned earlier, so he'll just peel that off and say, it's either not mine or tell me who your contractor is and I'll give him Division 27. And the trick is if your lights or your PoE infrastructure appear on the Division 26 or electrical drawings,
what would that look like? How would it be spec'd out on the drawing itself?
That's a great question. I'll see if I can pull that up here. It would appear on these electrical layout drawings. So you see this E300 level 0 floor plan power and systems. It's not super defined. It's not really clear.
Right. It sounds kind of broad.
It's very broad. What you would see happen is the symbols for the lights and the symbols for the data drops would appear on that drawing number. It would appear on E300.
Okay.
Instead of a totally separate drawing set, sometimes it starts with an I, sometimes it starts with an L, but a different drawing that's clearly called out as Division 27. And that's really important. So your lights, which normally show up on like this E400, the level 4 lighting, plan lighting, there is no E400. You can't have an E400. You have to, if you're doing a power over Ethernet lighting system, you're doing power over Ethernet infrastructure, it's got to not even appear on the E400. It's got to appear on an I400 or you probably call it AV. You can retitle it, but it's got to appear not on that. And that is really important because what happens then is if all your PoE lighting is appear on the E400 drawings, the electrical contractor is going to stake his claim and say, that is mine. I do all E400 drawings. And now all of a sudden you're having to go to the electrical contractor and say, well, can I have that money back so I can do it with my AV or PoE contractor? And they're going to say no.
He's not going to give that up.
What ends up happening is no contractor is ever going to say no to you, but what really is going to happen is they're going to go, sure, but it was only worth $50, even if you know it was worth $200.
Oh.
Because it'll be like, oh, the lights themselves, they were, here's the cost of the lights, but all the cost of the installation, most of the cost of the installation, the overhead, the contractor, that's not going to come back to you as the owner. And then what ends up happening is the owner looks at the bill and says, I thought I was going to save 15 to 30%. I'm actually paying more for these PoE lights. What gives? And it's because the electrician has already bid and he's stacked it up with all of his overheads and the staffing, his personnel. So instead of doing a handful of outlets, he staffed it as if he's doing the full lighting system.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's very hard as an owner to get that back out of the drawing set. So I really want to know for those of you guys who are out there who do AV work or do IT work, what are the drawing plans, the drawings? Because as the owner, I didn't get to see a lot of these Division 27 drawing sets because frankly a lot of them were just passed right past me. I'm curious, what are the drawings that you guys would see? Now I have my feedback of what would I, as an owner, I would like to see, and then I would like to hear what you guys think. There are a couple areas that I'm really curious for those of you who are out there watching this video, what your thoughts are. So
let us know.
Yes, and I apologize. I'm talking a lot, Maria. You're being very patient.
No, it's okay. I think of questions as you continue to explain the different, the different sheets and the different divisions. So it's good. It's learning for all of us.
So there are three main things, maybe 4, that I think need to be in the Division 27 drawings. First is schematic, and that's kind of like a one-line drawing. And that's it. So it doesn't really reference space, but it's just like this box connects to this box, connects to this box, connects to this
Kind
box.
of just like a CAD drawing, very simple.
Well, it's a CAD drawing, but they call it a schematic drawing, and so it's more like a system diagram than it is than the alternate, which would be the floor plan.
Like no dimensions, nothing
Exactly.
too specific.
The schematic doesn't really do dimensions. The floor plan, and I say floor plan, by floor plans I do mean floor plans and reflected ceiling plans. So reflected ceiling plan drawings are as if you were sitting on the floor looking up, you would see the reflected ceiling plans. Floor plans are if you're standing above it looking down. Now, on the schematic, I would also recommend having the fixture schedule. So it's a table of fixtures. You can usually find that. It looks very similar to what you would find on the architectural drawings. Sometimes the fixture schedules on the architectural drawings, sometimes the fixture schedules on the electrical drawings. As an owner, I'd recommend putting the fixture schedule closest to the contractor who's doing it. So if the electrical contractor is doing your lights, fixture schedule goes on the electrical drawings. If the communications guy is doing it, it ends up on the Division 27 drawings. So schematic with a fixture schedule, floor plans, reflected ceiling plans, and then the other 2 things that I have found helpful in my own planning and design of this is a rack elevation, and that is stacking a rack, because do you put your switch at the bottom? Do you put your switch at the top?
Right.
Where do you put your cable transit so cables can come through? Designing and laying out a rack is an important thing. So I would do the rack layout, and that would almost be like a detail. So you do your schematic with the fixture schedule, your floor plan, your reflected ceiling plan, and then you have kind of a rack schedule. And it's like an electrical schedule where you lay out these are the different things that go in your rack, and this is what they do. And, if you're really ambitious, port by port, because now your Division 27 contractor, he's actually ringing out the lights by port. He needs to know that fixture 1, 2, 3 talks to port 1, and that's really important stuff. And I know I'm diving deep, guys. Now I'm like deep into it.
You did touch base on having an architect in the timeline or in the mix. I know that our last show, Hannah is an architect, but she also had to learn a background of PoE. Do you think it's helpful for anyone involved in the project, every hand on board, have that background if that's going to be incorporated, or just a select few people?
I think it's helpful. It's not necessary.
Okay.
As long as I mentioned the project manager, owner, the owner, project manager, the architect, and the general contractor, like the key people there. Usually, there's the owner's project,
direct hands-on.
Yep. The architect usually has somebody assigned to the project. Like Hannah is like the architect assigned to the project. They need to know a little bit about PoE, and then your general contractor usually has a project manager or project engineer. They need to understand it, because they need to know who to call out to the project when to install the infrastructure. Because normally your general contractor, he'll wait until the building's done and then he'll tell the owner, okay, Mr. Owner, come on in, tell your IT guy to install the cables, and they'll install it right at the end of the project. But if you're doing lighting and more infrastructure, they need to understand where in the project phase they need to bring it in.
Oh, Peter joined us again. So Peter Samios from a couple shows back.
Hey, Peter.
He said, I would add any special notes to the designs, like extra cable, links, types and label standards, etc. to any of those plans.
Good call, Peter. Labeling is so essential. And just so you guys know, typically the labeling, extra cable links, those types of things end up in the Division 27 spec book. Now, here's the thing. Architects don't know this kind of information. So, Peter, and you guys out there, I would ask you, what would you recommend? In fact, one of the things I was going to ask this group, upvoted or downvoted, would you like PoE Texas to help develop a template specification to give architects. And if you're willing to help contribute to that, I would love to have your experience on that. What kind of overages, what kind of connectors, how to specify the right connectors so that you don't, that the goal is that you don't want to bind you as the contractor into doing one thing where you don't have room to be able to negotiate and bid and get the right products for it, but also get the owner and the architect's expectations right about what they should be expecting to see in their pricing, because obviously they're going to need to expect. Here, let me take this off so we can see that. They're going to need to expect, if you're doing lighting, if you're growing your scope, you're going to have to do things a little bit differently than if you're just putting in data drops for phones and Wi-Fi access points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very good.
Yeah, thank you for the comment, Peter.
That's great feedback. What other things do you guys think we need to talk about? There are a couple things that I was thinking about as a contractor. If you're in on this, you as the contractor now need to start getting involved in more complicated things. For example, you need to start looking at project elevations and sections. What those are is that you look at a specific area and say, okay, now my light fixture that I'm going to be installing hangs here. How low does it hang? And that's often shown in section views. Or if I'm putting in a conference room scheduler on a wall, where on that wall, how far one way or the other, trying to coordinate that information with the architect or your owner.
Would they ever mix the two between regular standard electrical planning and incorporating PoE, or would it likely be one or the other?
Great question. You could do either or. I don't think it would be reasonable to expect that a project can be 100% PoE.
Right.
Even talking to Hannah and Nathan,
especially depending on scale.
Yeah, they still have electricians on board. They still did electrical wiring, and even with their best efforts, which were fantastic, they were not truly everything in the building was PoE. Right. I'm hoping we can fix that one day, but that's going to be a little bit of development to accomplish.
Yeah.
So, but what that means is, yes, you will have electricians on site. You will have networking. As long as the drawings are just divided properly, most of the time they won't clash. No, they're not going to have too much of an issue. It comes down to, that's why I said the project manager and project engineer have to work together, because it will come down to that contractor and the project engineer negotiating the two. Mm-hmm. Because one guy's going to want to be in there hanging the light switches for the PoE while the electrician is wiring up his outlets.
Right.
Are they going to cross paths and be working on top of each other? That's where the general contractor comes on. But that's not too strange, because he's also got to coordinate when the guy's hanging the sheetrock, when the painters are coming. That's his job. Yeah. That's what he's paid to do.
True.
All right. So now, the other area that we need to talk about is server rooms. I wanted to talk about server rooms because we can't let owners and architects continue to go forward with server rooms. And I'll tell you, the one area that gets the least amount of attention in the architectural design, because architects don't understand it, are the server rooms. Mm-hmm. So that's another area we need to start putting some best practices and rules of thumb together for architects to be able to hand it to them and say, if you're doing a lighting system, you should expect, and there's a certain amount of cooling, there's a certain amount of space, a certain amount of power that needs to go into that. So you do need your electricians to get power into that space. And I know the guys at DMI Technologies have dealt with this very interesting question. Now they're the guys working at the Sinclair. So it's a very interesting conversation. And getting the server room right. So guys, feedback, give me comments. Tell me what you think the server rooms should have, why they need to have it. And the other thing that I know as an owner comes up is, now it's not just having, in the past when everybody said, well, the server room is really just for phones and Wi-Fi and stuff, they would just give only give the key to the room to the one IT guy. And he's the only guy who can get in there. The problem with that is that now you've got an infrastructure element. So the lights are in there. So do you need to give keys to the facilities manager now? because he's got to be, if the lights don't come on, people can't go in the room.
Right.
If the conference room scheduler goes down, the office admin team is going to be asking questions. And either you need to plan your IT guy to be more of a facilities guy, or you need to balance that facilities relationship. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and then kind of related to that, Peter did chime in again saying a UPS. Don't forget backup requirements on the PoE switches.
Great call, Peter. Excellent call. Yes, server rooms now need to have UPSs. They're common, but now if you're upping your power consumption, you're looking at a whole different class of UPSs.
That's true.
When you were trying to keep a couple of computers and security cameras on, that was one level of UPS. When you're trying to keep the lights on in the building, that's a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And like we saw with the Sinclair, they went with that big, beautiful system.
He also said to mention that to know about the duration is also required.
They're required. The code required duration, so that as you're tying up with your Division 27 contractor, you're trying to become that Division 27 contractor. That you do need to start getting into codes for how long the lights need to stay on for the local codes. It's pretty standard in the U.S. If you're coming overseas, everybody, there's some real differences. But usually the fire code is very specific, and I don't remember right off the top of my head what that is. Peter, do you remember what the duration is for lighting? It's about an hour, but it needs to be enough to stay on, and
that's like emergency lighting.
Yeah, that's the emergency backup lighting system, which is one of the most important. I know the guys at Plantronics and sorry, not Plantronics. Apologize. Platformatics and the guys at Innovative Lighting Solutions are talking about integrating batteries into their lights, and they've done that. With the Sinclair, they went ahead and did it with their own light fixtures. Mm-hmm. So they would take PoE in, battery back up that light fixture. So very interesting conversation. And you're going to have those conversations pretty early on with your owner.
Yeah, Peter, let us know your experience. It sounds like you have some good hands-on in this realm, so we're interested in knowing more. Let us know.
Definitely. So, and then let me pull up here the next one, which was we've talked about where. Now we're going to talk about how. How are you going to accomplish this? And I apologize, these were my notes, or catching back up because Maria's asking great questions. How is this all going to happen? How do you do this? We at PoE Texas, this is, remember I was mentioning earlier on how this affects our strategic planning. Mm-hmm. My goal is to start getting into this for PoE Texas. And I'm hoping to start a conversation with some of you guys who are experts out there to do it together. I think Tom mentioned really early on in the show, it's so underutilized. We're not at the point where we're dividing up the last vestiges of potential work. There is a lot of opportunity, and I know we're in particular looking at opportunities to partner with people. We just signed contract with Husley as a lighting rep.
Oh wow, nice.
Husley is here in
news to me.
here in the Austin, Central Texas area. So if you're a lighting rep firm or you're a Division 27 IT contractor and would like to team up with us to get that support, we would learn from you. You could learn from us. I think that would be very good. So we can help our partners design and navigate the complexities of new technology. And the cool part is roll the cost of doing that into the equipment provided on the project. So I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on it. I would like to hear what you guys have to think. So I know I've done a lot of talking. You got questions out there, guys? Let me know your thoughts on all this.
Don't be shy, please.
Okay. So if we don't have any questions, what we could do, Maria, is I would like to do our paid programming segment.
Yes.
So here we go, and I'm going to take off this title. So our today's show has been brought to you by the letter P in PoE, Texas. And our new line of 802.3 BT injectors. we've talked about how hard it is to convince owners to adopt new technology. And the new 802.3 BT standard, which gives you the 71 watts at the end device or 60 watts, is no different. So rather than asking owners and designers to upgrade the entire infrastructure to add one or two 60-watt devices, with these you could take advantage with these PoE midspands like the BT1 55-volt 60-watt or 55V6W. And I'm going to bring up my little title so you can see where they're at. Let me bring that up. Apologies, guys. Here we are. So there you go. You can see where you can find this. With the BT1 55V60W, you can add 60-watt PoE to any existing switch, whether it's PoE or non-PoE, without asking the owner to rebuild their whole infrastructure, which is very important. It's a fast change. It updates them. We have 3 versions all ready for pre-order, and by pre-order they're coming out. They're already on the boat. They'll be here soon. There is this guy here, which takes AC power in, and we'll do the 60-watt PoE, and it includes surge protection, so 6 kV surge protection. There is also a DC-powered one that can take a wide range of DC power. So if you're doing a solar project or you're doing a UPS project, it can take a wide range of power in, and it will output the 60 watts. And there is also an indoor one in a much smaller form factor that will still do 60 watts. It just does not have the surge protection. And so it's really for indoor use. The surge protection makes it used for outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
So you will find these 802.3 BT injectors on our website, www.poetexas.com, on Amazon, or on Newegg. So feel free to find those there. Newegg Business. Good call. It's on Newegg Business. So thank you very much for that sticking around for that paid portion of our programming. So with that, we are well into our hour, and I appreciate you guys all sticking with us. Why don't we go back to Miss? And by the way, we'll go back to Miss Maria Medell here to talk about PoE Connect.
Yeah, just a few updates with the user group. So refer and receive, what we're calling it, is now in full effect. So we just want to help bring more PoE enthusiasts to the group. So I've kicked off a referral program. To know more about it and learn what specifics there are, just go check out the Facebook group post. So you'll have to join to read the details.
And you're going to do it for LinkedIn as well?
We do it for LinkedIn as well, yes. The links are in the comments already below. And so last week I also mentioned that I'll be uploading product or demo videos or project demo videos as well. So PoE Connect members will actually be the ones driving that all. So y'all will get to suggest to me what you want to see, specific, whether it be PoE specific products you want to see demoed or just overall PoE installs in general. I can run those and be uploading those videos to see what you guys, to get y'all's answers. And that's also a great place to ask questions you may not have gotten to ask during the show, whether you missed it while we were live, or you did feel a little bit shy and didn't want to ask then. You can ask us in the group. We don't have to post it in the show, but we'll be able to interact with each other as well.
Okay, fantastic. So guys, thank you so much for coming to our show today. I've added a link to my contact information down here. So if you want to reach out to me, ask questions about what I've talked about, or you can reach out to me directly, or you can comment. Maria and I will take care of all the comments. And, in all honesty, I feel like I've taken a load off my chest today, finally coming out about my past as a project manager. So hopefully
the secret is out.
It is out there. Hopefully you found the conversation useful and valuable to you. If you do find our show useful, interesting, or helpful, please share it with your friends, colleagues, and even your customers. We're always impressed when we hear about people talking about how this has impacted their business. Finding out that sharing this kind of show on your social channels boosts your credibility as an expert. So, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share, and keep up to date with the exciting world of Power over Ethernet. and we will see you on the next live show. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Great show today.
Yeah,
We
had good audio and video, so
Yeah.
that hit all the marks.
Thank you, Tom. We love you, man. All right, well, let's wrap up the show today and end the stream.